Chapter 3, Twins in a Spin. I can milk a goat, I can. It's totally squirty, Lancelot taught me. I didn't want to do at first. It felt kind of icky and I got goosebumps just thinking about it. Then I watched Lancelot do it and it looked quite easy. And I thought if Lancelot can do it, then I can. I mean, he's 66 and he used to be a Hell's Angel. And he still has a ponytail and a leather jacket and with fringes and studs. And he's got a monster motorbike. I sat down on a chair and Lancelot showed me how to hold the goat's teat and squeeze the milk out. And I squeezed and it worked. Wow! I almost fell off my chair. I've got quite used to it now. And I think Rubbish likes it when I milk her because she's always pleased to see me. We call her Rubbish because she'll eat anything. She ate my shoelaces this morning. When the bucket is full, Granny and Lancelot take it to their house and put it in a big plastic tub. They're making it into yoghurt. And you should see our garden too. Dad's planted vegetable seedlings all over the place. Potatoes, tomatoes, beans, spinach, lettuce, marrows, all sorts. And we've got 10 chickens and a cockerel, not to mention Rubbish and a tortoise. Why do we have a tortoise? I asked Dad. Couldn't get a rhinoceros, said Dad. And he's our chief security officer. He'll make sure the chickens stay in at night and he'll scare away any foxes. His name is Schumacher. Anyway, we've had big excitement today, what with the twins vanishing again. And our next door neighbour, Mr. Tug, more of Terrible Tug later. So first of all, Cheese and Tomato disappeared. We couldn't find them anywhere. Mum was going bananas. Why didn't you keep an eye on them, Ron? I was trying to stop the goat eating the washing. Why didn't you keep an eye on them, Nicholas? I was upstairs on the computer. Besides, I'm not their bodyguard. Then Dad made a big mistake. He asked Mum why she hadn't noticed the twins disappearing. Maybe it's because your lovely new cockerel came into the house and tried to roost halfway up the chimney, she said. And after that, your lovely cockerel tumbled back down the chimney, bringing half a ton of soot with him, and flew around the room merrily, throwing it into every possible corner. And after that, I spent the next hour cleaning up, all because of your stupid, brain-dead cockerel. You go and check the coal shed. Nicholas, you search upstairs. We raced around for a bit, calling out, bumping into each other, but we couldn't find them anywhere. We'll have to call the police, said Mum at last, ashen-faced. Not again, muttered Dad. We only rang them last week about the twins vanishing. They'll start to thinking we're useless parents. Mum fixed Dad with a steely glare. Some of us here are useless parents, she said. Ouch. What about asking Granny and Lancelot if they've seen them? I suggested. Oh, don't be silly, Nick. I know they can toddle quickly, but they don't even know the way to Granny's house. Maybe they've learned to map read, said Dad. And I hid a smile. At that moment, there was a loud roar from outside and a screech of tyres on gravel. Talk of the devil, it was Granny and Lancelot out on their monster motorbike. They had the sidecar with them, and strapped in there were Cheese and Tomato, wearing mini crash hats and sunglasses. My babies, cried Mum, scooping them into her arms. Whee! Laughed Tomato. Wee wee! Echoed Cheese, and he did. Mum hastily put him down. Took them for a spin, said Lancelot with a big cheek crinkly grin. They gurgled all the way, loved it. I reckon they're going to be biker babes. They're not going to be biker babes, declared Mum. Oh, they look lovely in leather jackets and shades, said Lancelot. Go on, they could have tattoos and everything. Mum gave a horrific shriek. Tattoos! Don't you even dare suggest such a thing. Rebecca is going to be a ballet dancer, not a biker. The Sugar Plum Fairy does not have tattoos. And James, he's going to be a doctor. Why didn't you tell us you were taking them? We've all been going mad. Well, dear, said Granny, we just happened to be passing and we bought one of these little helmets and we were only going to be a jiffy just once round the block. Except we went round 10 times because the babes liked it so much and your gran was in the driving seat and she went a bit mad, grinned Lancelot. He whispered in my ear, she did a wheelie with the sidecar and everything. What a woman. I heard that, snapped Mum, doing wheelies with babies on board. How could you? Oh, it's quite easy, dear, began Granny. You go into third gear and you have to twist the throttle really. I'm not asking you how to do a wheelie. Oh. So we got the twins back. Sometimes I think it would be better if they disappeared for much longer. I mean, who looks after them the most of the time? Me. And I give them their food. I bath them and change their nappies. I do everything. I think I might go on strike. Chapter 4. A new kind of Wellington boot. I don't think our next door neighbour, is very happy about our mini farm. Mr. Tugg is always complaining. Dad and Mr. Tugg don't get on very well, especially since Granny ran off with Mr. Tugg's dad. She did, yes, Lancelot is Mr. Tugg's dad. They eloped in a hot air balloon and got married. I mean, she's 65 and Lancelot is even older. Mr. Tugg is quite short and he's almost bald except for a little bristly moustache that wriggles like a caterpillar when he's cross. He has a kind of warning system for when he's angry, which is often. First he goes red, then deep red, then purple, and finally he turns white hot. It's very impressive, as long as you're not standing too close. That's dangerous because sometimes he explodes. Anyhow, Mr. Tugg came banging on our door today. He never rings the doorbell. He prefers banging. "The Martians are coming!" yelled Dad. "Quick, everyone take cover!" "Oh, hello, Mr. Tugg. Fancy seeing you standing there. I thought that noise was a Martian invasion." "You think you're funny, don't you?" growled Mr. Tugg, and his moustache went wriggle, wriggle. "Me? Funny? Oh, no, not me," said Dad, peering closely at Mr. Tugg's face. "What are you staring at?" "Is it going to hatch, do you think, Nicholas?" asked Dad, and I couldn't help giggling. "What? Is what going to hatch?" demanded Mr. Tugg suspiciously. Dad stepped back. "Sorry, Mr. Tugg, thought I saw a caterpillar, but it was something else." Mr. Tugg was breathing heavily. "My wife was giving one of her aromatherapy sessions with us this morning," he began. "Aromatherapy?" repeated Dad. "That's where you sniff smelly things to make you feel better, isn't it? I sniffed my socks once, but it didn't work. In fact, I felt awful afterwards." Condition red, and Mr. Tugg breathed even more heavily. "Mrs. Tugg had an important customer, and your goat wandered in and stood there smelling like a cowshed. The poor woman was so scared she ran from the house." "That's the trouble with goats," said Dad. "You never know what they're going to do next." "She was only wearing a towel," roared Mr. Tugg. "Nothing but a towel? That's disgusting. I've tried, Mr. Tugg. I keep telling her to put on a coat and shoes when she goes out, but will she do it? No." "Not the goat, you stupid imbecile. The woman. The woman was only wearing a towel." Now he was definitely deep red. "Can you imagine how embarrassing that was for her? And then, when I finally managed to calm her down and get her back indoors, I discovered that your goat had been eating my Wellington boots." "It's very kind of you to feed her," said Dad. "She gets so bored with grass." "My wellies were outside the back door. She chewed the toes off them." "That's why we call her rubbish." "She'll eat anything," Dad explained. "Look!" cried Mr. Tugg, holding up the chewed boots. He had reached condition purple now. Dad examined the boots. Summer wellies? "Look, Nicholas, they're a sort of mix of boot and sandal, just right for the summer, so your feet don't get too hot. You could call them bootles, Mr. Tugg, or even better, you could be like the Duke of Wellington. He invented Wellington boots, and you invented summer boots. They could be named after you. Tuggles." Mr. Tugg went from purple to white hot to explosion in about 2 seconds flat. It was pretty impressive. Mum had to calm him down, just like she always does. "Come in and have a cup of tea, Mr. Tugg, while Ron catches rubbish. Sorry he escaped. I don't know how it happened." "I'll tell you how it happened," began Dad. "I'll tell you how it happened," began Dad. "That goat was trained by the SAS, you know. She used to be their regimental mascot. They trained her to sneak behind enemy lines. And, 'Run!' barked Mum. 'Go and get her back now.' So Dad went and captured rubbish, while Mum told Mr. Tugg that we'd buy him some new boots. Dad wasn't happy when he heard about that. We're supposed to be trying to save money, not spend it on new boots for that dinosaur next door," he complained. He stood at the back window staring out at the animals. "Don't know how we'll manage," he muttered.